PrepMyHire is a platform that connects real managers with candidates so they can be better prepared for their next career level. We collaborate with a diverse group of managers that resonate with our mission and vision. Decode the interview process by performing resume reviews, mock interviews, or discussions about career reconversion. So check our website, PrepMyHire.com, our LinkedIn page, or our Facebook page to get the news first. Today, we are excited to start our interview with the manager series with Heather Pelley, collaborator on PrepMyHire platform. Heather is originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee, where she graduated from the University of Tennessee with a degree in mass communication. In 2004, she joined the Air Force and went into contracting career field where she oversaw a number of types of contracts at bases all over the world. She has been in 2 deployments and multiple temporary duty assignments. After serving 8 years, she separated from active duty and began working in the private sector for research and development and nonprofit organization, where she handles subcontractors for various government agencies. Then she changed her career again, and this time went to the IT field, working for a multinational corporation or overseeing contracts. She has had multiple roles in the company, and she's now a senior manager with teams reporting into her. She has earned the Leadership Award in 2018, and she has been leading the Women Leadership Employee Resource Group in San Antonio, Texas. With all of that, Heather, welcome to our session. How are you?
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very excited to hear more. You had quite a journey, and we're super excited to have you here and we want to learn more.
Well, thank you.
So tell me, like, we've heard how you graduated from university and how you started working on the military. So what made you enroll?
So I think, like a lot of people, when they get a degree, maybe they're, well, maybe not like a lot of people, but for me anyway, I wasn't quite sure, like, okay, so now I have this degree in mass communication. So what exactly am I going to do with it? My jobs throughout college weren't really related to it much. And at the time, my sister was in the Navy. I had a brother in the Marines, and we just kind of talked about it. And I thought, you know, the Air Force is probably, they're going to give me a skill. So whether it's related to what I have a degree in or not, I know that I'll get a skill out of it. If I hate what I'm doing, it's a 4-year commitment. I can get out, but I will get out at least with like some sort of new skill, plus the opportunity to travel. I was very interested in travel at the time. And so I just felt like it would be a good opportunity for me to take. And I'm honestly really glad I did, because it really has set me up for a lot of future success that I've had.
I like that, taking the opportunity that you saw, and you know, worst comes to worst, it was still a good outcome. So absolutely. Right. And then you moved to the private sector. So what kind of skills did you end up bringing with you from the military?
A lot, actually. Definitely accountability, dependability, time management for sure. There is a certain, you know, there's in the military, it's very structured. So you work within very structured environments, but you also are responsible for yourself. So you have to learn how to structure your own time and your own responsibilities and things like that. So I brought all of that outside with me. Also collaboration. There's so much teamwork in the military. There has to be, right? So you have to learn how to collaborate across multiple teams with multiple personalities that you deal with, especially people that, you know, could be higher ranked that you don't particularly agree with, but you've got to figure out a way to work together. So that's a few of the skills that I brought with me.
Quite a long list, I would say, and something that I wouldn't necessarily think of, but that is absolutely true. And I know you've been also a manager in the Air Force, but also you're now in a corporation. So do you see any similarities or differences between them?
Sure. So regardless of who you're managing or in what kind of environment, people are people, and they're going to have their quirks, and they're going to have things that are affecting them outside of work that they bring with them to work. As much as we may try and separate ourselves from what's going on in our personal life when we get to work, it's really difficult to do that. So there's the similarity there is people are people. One of the main differences, though, in supervising someone in the military versus in the civilian sector is the ability to make someone do something. I could force someone to do something in the military. I cannot force someone to do something in civilian life. Now, what that means is I've got to figure out how to motivate them. What drives them? What is it that is going to make that person want to do well in their job? That's going to want them. What is it that's going to make them want to work for me and do their best? So that's a difference. And it's a challenge. And I think a lot of people would say that it's a challenge. But that motivation factor, it's really key. You've got to know your people, and you've got to be able to connect with them on a level that makes them want to work.
So when, you've been a manager in a corporation now for almost 5 years, and when it comes to the hiring process, what are you looking for?
I am looking for someone who has a good attitude. I am looking for someone that demonstrates a willingness to want to learn. I am looking for someone who, first impressions mean so much, and whether that's from your resume to the appearance of you at the interview, I'm looking for someone that's put together. They speak or write concisely, coherently, not a lot of errors, things like that. So basically, I'm really looking for somebody who's open and has the aptitude to learn and things like that.
Definitely the loop of learning and relearning and de-learning is crucial. And sometimes those are considered as soft skills. I've heard time management, all of that are sometimes labeled as soft skills and not technical skills, which a lot of people believe that those are the core, and that's what managers are looking for and what that matters the most. How do you feel about that?
So for example, regardless of what company, so yes, there are certain things that you need experience in. I'm probably not going to, if I have a position open, and let's say at my current job, and I need specific IT related skills, I'm probably not going to hire somebody that doesn't even really know how to work a computer. So yeah, there is a basic level of knowledge. However, let's say this person came from a different company and they understand this IT language and how it works and everything. But that company, they have different processes. They have different tools and systems that they use. So I don't need somebody that knows exactly what it is that we do. I just need somebody that is going to be able to learn it and that has an attitude of willingness to learn it. So I would say that those, and I call them human skills. I would say that those human skills really are more important than just a ton of technical aptitude. I can teach. Almost anything can be taught if somebody has the aptitude and the willingness to learn. So I think those skills are kind of more important than knowing how to do exactly everything that's listed on that job description, because almost nobody's going to know everything that's listed on the job description.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good advice. Sometimes I think a lot of the times people don't apply to certain things because of all of that.
Right.
And absolutely soft skills enhance the technical skills. Absolutely.
Right, for sure. Like as an example, my previous career working solely with government money could not be further from what I do now. It's very different. The only common denominator is a contractual document, but the way they're produced, the terms and conditions, the rules of engagement, completely different. So I did not know everything that I needed to know when I was hired, but thankfully I've been able to learn it and as I go along. So that's really what I'm looking for.
Awesome. And when it comes to like looking at the resumes, is there something that catches your eye in like the first minute you look at it?
There are, so resumes come in so many different shapes and sizes. I want a clean document. I don't like, personal preference, I guess, a lot of borders or flowers, or don't make your resume too busy. You know, it should be well written. It should be concise. You should stick to relevant information. Something that someone told me a long time ago and that has worked in my favor is that read the job description and then go through your current resume or think back and think of things, how they tie in, and use some of those keywords that they use in the job description on your resume to tie that in so that your resume will get noticed. So also anything that has to do spelling, grammatical errors, anything like that, that's a real turnoff. I don't need to know what you did 15, 20 years ago as your internship in college. I want to know, I would say don't go past the last 10 years unless it is truly relevant experience. And then you can, and just make sure you tie it in, but just be concise and just make sure that your formatting, your grammar, spelling, all of that is on point, because it's those little details that can trip you up. And if you cannot manage that in a resume, then we have serious doubts about what you may be able to manage in a workload.
Absolutely. And, you know, you mentioned something that personal preference. And I think a lot of the times in an interview process, people forget that also the manager is a person that is there
Right.
kind of trying to see if this is a fit and know the other person to begin with. And a lot of the time that interview becomes very stressful because you come, you know, prepared for kind of like a panel and like to be judged or to be, you know, there to be evaluated.
Mhm.
And absolutely you have some selling skills to do, but what do you think is the manager's role in creating an environment that's not stressful for the candidate?
Right. I think the manager's role is to welcome the person and try and put them at ease. Whether that is trying to get to know them, trying to find some sort of common ground that you can both sort of relate to, and make it as comfortable for them as possible. Because as you said, it is extremely nerve-wracking, and there's a lot of nerves on the part of the interviewee. So as an interviewer, I want you to feel like we're having a conversation. And by putting you at ease, that's going to allow me to get to know more about you and your personality. Because when we're interviewing, not only am I looking to see if you're going to be a good fit for my role, but hopefully you're looking to see if you are going to be a good fit with the culture of our company, the personalities and things of that nature. So it is very important for the manager to kind of set the tone up front. Let them know that, you know, this is an easygoing, hopefully, conversation. Obviously, with different types of jobs, it's going to be different. But for my job in particular, that has seemed to work very well. And it just hopefully puts them, you know, a little bit more comfortable in the situation, and they're able and better able to express themselves and talk about their skill set and what they're going to bring to the table.
Similar to how we're discussing right now.
Yes.
Kind of trying to see what is there, what we have in common, what is something interesting. And I think everybody brings a lot to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And
I would agree.
going on the other spectrum, right? Is there, you know, during the interview, would you say there are some things that are a big no-no in your opinion?
Yes, for sure. I'm trying to think back of some of the interviews that I've had that haven't gone so well. For example, I did have a candidate who basically tried to take over the interview. She felt that she should, you know, kind of set the tone and lead things off, and asking questions is never a bad thing in an interview, but when when the interviewee basically turns the tables and takes over the whole interview, that's probably a no-no. Something else that's a no-no is embellishing your experience or your skill set. Like I said, almost everything can be taught as long as you have a willingness to learn. But if you come in and you're already sort of being deceitful, if that's not too harsh of a word, by embellishing what it is that you can do and what you're offering, it will eventually come out, and it's just not a good practice. So I would definitely advise against that.
Yeah, sometimes I think, there's nobody who knows it all.
Right.
And I think that's the beauty of it, right? We need to look into the pieces that we're missing in the teams or in the company. And there's no way of seeing that if we're just seeing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. That's obviously a good point. And is there a question you like to ask in the interview?
There is, yes. I like to find out what it is that they feel makes them a good fit for the role. So I always like to ask that question. There's another question that I hate and I like. I hate because it's just really difficult to ask. And when I've been asked it in the past, it's very hard to put it into words, but it's the one of, what is your greatest weakness? It seems like a terrible question, but you have to be able to turn it around. So I like to see if people are able to turn it around, and use it as a way to kind of sell yourself without undercutting yourself, if that makes sense. So there's a way to say, like, I have trouble, my greatest weakness is I'm a people pleaser. I have trouble saying no. I really enjoy being needed. That's something that gets me going, I guess. Like, it motivates me if I feel like I'm needed in something, but that also kind of, sometimes I can get overloaded with things. And so that's something that I've had to work on. So you wouldn't want to say, I have trouble getting out of bed in the morning. I mean, that is not the kind of weakness that you want to discuss in an interview, because that's just not a good look.
I like that. Absolutely. And as you were saying, I think that goes tied to the other thing, right? Where everybody has something that they want to work on. That doesn't mean, that disqualifies you 100%, or that it really is about how that is portrayed, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good question. And is there question that you've heard from a candidate that kind of stayed with you or you really liked?
So that's a good thing to bring up, because a lot of people don't ask very many questions, or maybe they ask a canned question that they found from Google that they should ask or something. But one question that I was asked, and I felt like it was very insightful, was, what are some things that have helped you in your career? Because I've, gone through the ranks, so to speak, a little bit. So this candidate just asked, like, what kind of tips would you give me, or what kind of advice do you have? How have you been able to be successful in your career up to this point? And I really liked that question. I thought that was good. Whether or not we hired that candidate, maybe she was able to take something and use it later on. So I thought that was a really great question.
Is there any advice you would give to a candidate or people watching this interview?
Be open. And I don't mean be so open that you spill all of your guts. What I mean when I say be open is be open to opportunities, be open to learn, say yes to things that maybe scare you. One of my favorite things to think about or say is, comfort is the opposite of progress. If you are in a very comfortable position, then you're probably not growing. So just open yourself up and maybe go for the job that you didn't think you were qualified for, and be confident in yourself. For sure, be confident, do your homework, understand the business of the company that you are applying to, understand what some of their challenges and issues may be. And if possible, come with some ideas on how you can help that company get past some of their challenges or obstacles,
like your experience is very relevant. And I think a lot of the people, especially coming from the military, right? A lot of the times it's like, what exactly, it's so different sometimes from the outside. But then when you come to think about it, I think it's very useful for somebody to hear from you that there are a lot of similarities as well. I think that's very valuable.
Definitely.
So,
Definitely. And I will say this before we close, Sophia, just as far as like resume writing and military versus civilian and all of that stuff.
mhm,
In the military, we use a lot of our performance evaluations that we get every year, award packages and things, and these tend to be very wordy. When you get out of the military and you're applying for a job within the government, within the federal government, state, local, whatever, it's a little bit different of a format. If you leave the military and you go into private sector, you have to make sure that your resume is not nearly as lengthy, wordy, paragraph form as it is when you're applying for a federal job or anything within, the government sector. So it's difficult. It can be difficult. So I'd just like to say, like, if there's anybody listening that needs assistance, like trying to transition their resume from a federal resume to a private sector resume, like there's plenty of people out there that would help. I would love to take a look at it and help somebody do that. So feel free to engage me if anybody needs that assistance, because it can be a bit daunting.
I do have a question that came from chat, and it says, as a woman, do you feel you had additional challenges in the military? And if so, what did you do, and how do you think it has prepared you for the current role?
Sure. So yes, there were challenges that came with being a woman. Sure, because it is, as everybody knows, it's getting better, but it's a very male-dominated kind of career. So, besides the basic things of like our uniforms are all sized for men, so they look like, they're all too big, and they're just not great uniforms. It's almost all male-oriented stuff. But beyond that, as far as work and things like that go, I was pretty fortunate to always work in offices where my leadership was very cognizant of making sure that there was kind of an equal playing field. Other career fields, I will say, that I know several females were in, did not particularly have that luxury. So developing, not taking it personal. I want to say developing thick skin, but you have to learn how to take criticism. A lot of times criticism that you would get in the military would not come in the form that you would particularly want it to. It was more blunt, it was more direct, it was more harsh. And so if you're not used to that, it can be a little bit of a shock the first time. So just developing a little bit tougher exterior, learning not to take things so personal, and certainly, being able to adjust your attitude when necessary. You're not going to like everything that you're told to do, but you have to do it anyway. That kind of translates into change management in the private sector as well. Sure, you're not going to like everything that you have to implement, new policies, processes, changes, and things like that. But I think being in the military taught me how to try and look at the best of that and then relay that to my team and get them on board. So change is a constant in whatever career you're in, but in the military, it's really, really constant. And learning how to handle that, and then also learning how to translate that to an actionable item that my team can get behind, is something that I feel like really helped. And I know that's not really gender specific, but that was something that I can think of off the top of my head. But thank you, Chad, for that question.
Yeah, and also I see that like you're also learning how to apply a lot of those in the current career. So I think you're like the example of what you're saying is what's happening as well, just from that answer. So thank you. Thank you again for the time and sharing all of this with us. I think we've learned a lot today, and how it is to transition from one environment to the other environment, how we always learn. but how independent of the environment we deal with people and how that translates to the management role as well. Thank you. I will kind of close out by saying that, that's what PrepMyHire is also about, helping candidates highlight what they bring from a different environment or from a different job, and hopefully decrease that stress that comes with the interview process by being prepared like with managers like Heather. So until next time, stay safe and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.